the Retro Racing Managers League. It's the Grand Prix 2 World Championship of 1990. With just 3 races to go, we head to Jerez de la Frontera in Spain. Jake Sanson here with you. Pre-qualifying about to get underway, and at this critical point in the championship, only 12 drivers now can become the 1990 World Champion. Riccardo Patrese leads the standings with 80 points. Mika Hakkinen is 11 points back. Gerhard Berger 2 further back. Ayrton Senna 2 more. And then Frentzen, Piquet, Warwick, Gugelmin, Alesi, Nannini, Boutsen and Alain Prost all have a mathematical chance of getting to the top of the podium in the World Championship. However, with 3 races to go, we have the casual business of some Grand Prix racing in the pre-qualifying session first of all, and that is of course the GoBobber.UK Cup. So here at Jerez, it is Marc Blundell that has taken first blood in the qualifying session. The Osella going up to the top with Martin Brundle in second place in the Minardi. Then it's Alessandro Zanardi in the second of the Lego Osellas with Michael Schumacher's Reynard there in 4th position. Bruno Giacomelli is next up alongside Pierluigi Martini. Then Ukio Katayama and JJ Leto are there in the top 10, along with Bertrand Gachot and Eric Bernard to round it up. Christian Fittipaldi is way up in 11th on the grid after the life upgrades. Martin Donnelly is 12th in the Eurobrun. Damon Hill and Alan McNish come next up with Eddie Irvine and a Goody Suzuki in tow. Then it's Johnny Herbert and Paolo Barilla who makes his debut this season with the Zakspeed team. Volker Wiedler is going to finish off the year with Real alongside Roland Ratzenberger on the Reynard. Then Roberto Guerrero and Paul Warwick, Paul Tracy and Gabriele Tarquini with Joe Wigglehawk and Juan Fangio II starting from the back of the field. So it's going to be a fascinating Grand Prix this one once again, and of course this pre-qualifying session, same as always, one of the first 3 teams that crosses the finish line will be our winner, and of course the 3 teams that cross the finish line first will progress through to the Grand Prix. 35 laps here at Jerez, 1 mandatory pit stop, and it's all down to who gets the victory. Marc Blundell from pole position, Martin Brundle alongside. They'll be teammates at Benetton next year, and it's Brundle who's got the best start, but Zanardi is trying to outfox them both as they go up to the first corner, and it looks as though Brundle's got the best getaway. Schumacher in the Reynard's coming around the outside as well to make a good jump, but Zanardi's gone for the lead, and he hasn't quite managed to make it stick as they go through turn 1. Zanardi tries again on Martin Brundle into the first corner, and it looks as though they're all just about getting through without too many dramas or incidents. So Martin Brundle in the Minardi leads the way from the 2 Lego Osellas, as Zanardi and Blundell have both managed to keep in front of Michael Schumacher. And then it's Bertrand Gachot in the Colonia ahead of his teammate Katayama, but not for long. Katayama's got back through by the look of it, on the way through to the right-hander and on the back straight. So here's Schumacher making his bid on Blundell. He thinks better of it on the first lap. This is a 35-lap race. There's a lot that can happen over the course of these battles. So he's obviously got a timer. Oh, and that's contact. 4 cars going in at the hairpin. Goodness me, Damon Hill has gone and so has Alan McNish. And I think we've lost Barilla. We've certainly lost Wiedler. We've lost Donnelly as well. That just looked like drivers getting too tight together into the hairpin, and we've lost 4 of them. Donnelly, McNish, Hill and Wiedler. So that has not gone well at all. So 4 drivers out on the first lap of the race, and that is really badly decided from a few of the drivers there, as Alan McNish is recovered from the circuit. So the race continues on, obviously, but it's not in the scenario that they would have liked. So Martin Brundle continues as the battle is resumed, and the drivers continue around the circuit in fast Vettel. Martin Brundle leads the way in the Minardi, and it's looking good for him at this moment in time. Alessandro Zanardi going well in second position. So the race continues. It's a fantastic run so far from the Englishman, who leads the way. And to be fair to Martin Brundle, he has got good solid experience behind him. Zanardi in second place, young boy Marc Blundell in third position. He's looking pretty comfortable with the way things are currently at the moment, as the 2 Lego Osella cars are running in second and third. They've had some good upgrades coming into this next round of the championship. And obviously with 3 races to go, they want to end the season on a high. Here's Bruno Giacomelli. He doesn't have a race seat ready for the 1991 season. He will be a test driver apparently, but this could be one of the last times we ever see Bruno Giacomelli in a Grand Prix car. It would be a shame, but he has plenty of experience to take into his world of sports car racing, which apparently he is going to continue. As Martini there is hustling the Brazilian youngster Christian Fittipaldi. He is still the youngest man in Formula 1 racing, don't forget Christian Fittipaldi. And he's going to be moving on to pastures new next season. Whereas the Life team is rather sadly going to fold at the end of the year. But it is going to be team boss Tom Cairns who switches across to the Lola outfit. As Mark Blundell comes out of the final turn and up the main straight, it's all looking pretty sweet from his point of view. Martin Brundle leads. Zanardi, Blundell, Schumacher, Katayama, Gasho and Giacomelli. As Tarquini, the man in last place now, because there's only 22 cars running, is Ratzenberger's in the pits. He's got a throttle problem. So that is not great news at all for the Austrian. Very unfortunate in the early stages, and that puts Ratzenberger way down the order. Why is it always he in the Reynard team that seems to bear the brunt of the mechanical gremlins? He's definitely having very poor luck of it in 1991. But the good thing is, at least he will still be on the starting grid for 1991. Now, an interesting note to pick up on here. Pierluigi Martini. Oh, that's a spin. That's a Goody Suzuki who spins going down to the back straight. So Suzuki is going to be swamped by this train of cars. A big mistake for Aguri Suzuki. He really couldn't have afforded to do that as he now drops behind the two Porsches of Warwick and Tracy. So a big problem there for Giacomelli. For Aguri Suzuki it was who had the spin. But a very dramatic form book now coming through. I was just going to say, interesting to note about 1991 is that Pierluigi Martini is on the cusp of sealing the GoBobby.UK Cup title this weekend. He can get the job done. All he has to do is outscore JJ Leto by 7 points, and he will get the job done. He's currently behind JJ Leto, but interestingly, of course, we have Pierluigi Martini, who's on 100 points, and JJ Leto, who's on 74 in second in the championship. Katayama is on 72. He's ahead of both men, actually. But all Martini needs is a point score 7 more than JJ Leto today, and he will win the GoBobby.UK Cup for 1990. And that is a very exciting opportunity for the Italian. His teammate, though, Brundle, is leading the way in the Minardi. Blundell second, then Zanardi, Schumacher, Gasho, Katayama, Giacomelli, Leto, Martini and Fittipaldi. Let's have a look at the lap times, because Blundell, having now got past Zanardi, is clearly showing himself to be pretty fast. Let's have a look, and Blundell is currently the fastest man on track. Martini's going well, actually, down in 9th. He's the 3rd fastest behind his teammate Brundle on that lap. Oh, we've got someone off in front. That's one of the Reals. It's Irvine. He's got a failed suspension. You can see it there on the right front. So Eddie Irvine ends the Real day on lap 4. So the Reals will not continue in this race, and unfortunately they will not qualify for the Spanish Grand Prix of 1990. And that is very unfortunate for the team. They really have had a dismal end to their 1990 motorsport campaign. And I don't think it's small wonder why the Real team will not be returning to Formula 1 in 1991. Look at Mark Blundell. He's really pushing his new teammate for next year, Martin Brundle, as Martini, possibly under pressure, locks up the brakes a little bit into the final hairpin as he tries to charge after JJ Leto. It is more likely that he will seal the GoBobby.UK Cup at the Japanese Grand Prix next time out at Suzuka, but certainly here at Jerez, he would love to get the job done because it would take the pressure right off him ahead of his campaign with Minardi in 1991. And there are rumours flying around that if Minardi continues to up their score, they could overtake the Lola team and obviously end up having a very strong battle in the Grand Prix World Championship next year. Now let's look at Porsche. They've completely rebranded. We didn't get to see much of it at Estoril, but to finish off their season, they've done a deal with Apple Computers, and the car looks absolutely thrilling, and it's very retro now, Dick Barber colours that they used in sports car racing a few years ago. Oh, that's a big lunge from behind. That's Tarquini trying to get up the inside of Tracy, having already made the move on Winkelhock in the Zakspeed. Zakspeed, of course, are keeping going in 1991. Porsche are, but not as a team. They have decided to sell the team, and their assets are now going to be plugged into the Williams project, as Williams becomes the main factory effort for Porsche engines, and team boss at the Porsche team, Scott Woodwis, will take over the Williams operation in 1991. And clearly, the project has some good backing and some good motivation behind it, because they've managed to capture the services of 1988 world champion Ayrton Senna to partner Thierry Boutsen next year. But obviously we're still in the midst of pre-qualifying. Here's Zanardi, and Blundell's got through into the lead. I didn't see that, I do apologise, but Mark Blundell has taken the lead from Martin Brundle. I wonder if he's on a slightly lighter fuel strategy, because obviously with a lighter car, he will be faster. But then in general, we have seen this weekend the Lego Ocella project has been much faster than it has been in previous weeks. So hopefully that is a trend that's going to continue for them for the end of the season before the team becomes Fon Metal. Whoops, Blundell locks up at the hairpin. pushing very hard there in the lead. But he's hoping to keep a handle on things out in the front end of the race. Having just got there, he certainly doesn't want to throw it away. So Mark Blundell trying to finish this 1990 season off on a high before he joins Benetton for next season as teammate to the man he's just overtaken in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, Martin Brundle. There's Alessandro Zanardi. He's in front of the resurgent Michael Schumacher. His confidence really has raised, the young German, 21 years of age, made his debut in Grand Prix this year. And he's been snapped up by Ferrari for 1991. They've clearly spotted something in him that is worth banking on. It's a big shock. Ferrari don't normally sign young rookies with very little experience, but they clearly think that Schumacher's something quite special. As we go into lap number 7 here at the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, the pre-qualifying race at the 1990 Grand Prix 2 World Championship, and this could be the last one held at the Jerez circuit, certainly for a while. Next year it's been announced that the Spanish Grand Prix will move to Jarama in Spain after a team's unanimous vote. There is a new circuit that has been built in Catalonia, just outside the city of Barcelona, and that was said to be a potential venue for 1991. The teams have decided to opt for Jarama because they know that the circuit is of good infrastructure. They're waiting to see what happens with Catalonia, essentially. And Michael Schumacher up the inside of Zanardi and gets the move for third, does he? Yes, he does shut the door on the Italian on the exit. That was an aggressive move, but a solid one from Schumacher as he now gets into third place. The German really pushing hard. And here's Tracy, the Canadian, who really has taken to Grand Prix racing very well indeed, as he makes his move on the Eurobrun there. I think that's Fangio he's just got past, as Ratzenberger, driving angry, trying to make up progress through the field, is obviously pushing very hard indeed and trying to close up on Joe Winkelhock. But it was indeed Paul Tracy that's now managed to get past Fangio the second. His teammate Paul Warwick is now in the top 15. Porsche's target for the end of the season is very simple. They have already won a race in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup this year, but they've really struggled because they're putting all of their attention and focus into the Porsche engine for 1991. As into the pits comes the Dallara, that's Johnny Herbert. So Johnny Herbert's got damage to the front wing. Now I can't quite figure out where he's done that on the circuit, but he's certainly got damage to the front wing. So that's really compromised the Dallara day. And so Johnny Herbert is down at the back of the field himself now with Damon Hill already out. There's no chance now really for Damon Hill to win the Go Bobbit at UK Cup. That was his chance. So mathematically now he cannot catch Martini. There were a few drivers that still had the potential to get the title won in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup coming into this weekend. Because obviously you get a point for pole position, you also get a point for fastest lap, and Tracy locks up at that corner where we saw Suzuki spin off earlier on. He manages to keep the car on the road. But with Martini now with a 26-point advantage over JJ Leto, he's obviously got the potential here to go even further ahead. There are 34 points available in 2 races. So in fact I was wrong. Martini needs to outscore JJ Leto by 9 points to seal the title, which is obviously looking unlikely at the moment with Leto ahead of Martini. So he'll probably have to wait now until the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka to get the title won. But a lot can still happen in the remaining laps, as Mark Blundell leads the way in the Lego Osella, which next year is going to become the Lego Fondmetal, as Fondmetal takes over the team, but they decided not to rebrand. They think that the Lego partnership is a very strong one, and the sales that they've had from merchandising of this Lego car has been absolutely phenomenal, I'm told. As Schumacher is now trying to close up again on Martin Brundle's Minardi. There's a Goody Suzuki, and he's lost out to Paul Warwick. So Paul Warwick has got into 14th place. The Porsche is back on the rise. They don't seem to have a great qualifying car. This is their weakness, the Porsche team. But in the races, if they manage to get into a decent position, they are very strong. And Paul Warwick in particular is a real fighter. He's going to be the test driver for Williams next year. And he's definitely a talent to watch out for the future, is Paul Warwick. He's got a really solid move ahead of him. Now here's a Goody Suzuki getting down the inside of Paul Warwick's Porsche, just as I was talking about them. And so Suzuki gets through. Nice overtaking move. No problems at all there. And Martin Brundle running in second position in the Minardi now, ahead of Michael Schumacher. So the first 3 teams across the line are looking likely at the moment to be Lego Osella, Minardi and Reynard, who have made a bit of a habit at the end of this 1990 season of getting through to a Grand Prix. They hadn't managed to until about the Belgian Grand Prix. And then Schumacher's win there has just completely revitalised the team. They've really made steps forward, and I think they're going to be very sorry to miss Michael Schumacher. They're going to have to see him go at the end of the year. And I think they would have really enjoyed having him on board a little bit more. But there is Mark Blundell, really enjoying life at the front end of the field here. Martin Brundle in second, Schumacher in third, from Zanardi, Gasho, Giacomelli, Katayama, Leto, Martini and Christian Fittipaldi. Doing a fine job, actually, the Brazilian, in 10th position at the moment. So already a very solid effort as the teams continue on their way round. And Michael Schumacher running a solid race. Let's have a look as they come through at the end of the lap. We're on board now with Michael Schumacher, the German, who is going to be a Ferrari driver in 1991. He can probably hardly believe his luck, but he still says, no, I've got a job to do. I've got to focus on it. I want to make sure that we get this season wrapped up in fine style. So he's doing his best to end the season on a high, and he really wants another solid few finishes. This is the new chicane that's been brought in for 1990. For safety reasons, they felt it was a good decision to slow the cars down coming into that fast end of the course, and it certainly seems to have worked. The drivers find it a little bit irritating, but safety first, always. So Martin Brundle still staying in touch with Mark Blundell, but he's not really staying close enough to him to challenge for the victory. It's going to have to be decided in the pit stops, I think. So Blundell, Brundle, Schumacher, Zanardi, Gasho and Giacomelli is the top six. Then Katayama 7th, ahead of Leto, Martini and Fittipaldi. Bernard is 11th, Barilla is 12th. Then it's Roberto Guerrero doing a great job in the AGS ahead of Aguri Suzuki and Paul Warwick in the Porsche. 16th place is Tracy. Then it is Tarquini in the other AGS. Winkelhock is 18th. Then Fangio is second. Fangio the second is 19th, I should say, ahead of Ratzenberger and Herbert, who are trying to recover after their earlier skirmishes. Now here is the Porsche of Paul Warwick. New livery for the end of the season, the Apple Computers car, and it really does look pretty spectacular in Formula One guise. And as part of the deal, apparently the Apple company will be part of the Benetton operation in 1991, because obviously Benetton are also taking Porsche engines, although they will be customer engines, because Williams will get the factory engine unit, and Benetton will take the customer-supported engine power. But the Apple name will go to Benetton in 1991 as part of this new deal. So all very exciting, all very entertaining to see what's going to happen next with the Porsche story in Formula One. But they will be engine suppliers to Ayrton Senna, to Thierry Boutsen, to Mark Blundell and to Martin Brundle. That man there in second position behind the race leader, Mark Blundell. There's Schumacher, Zanardi. In the background you can see Gasho being caught by Giacomelli, who has already dealt with Ukyo Katayama and JJ Leto. Martini is closing in on Leto a little bit now, so let's have a look at the lap times, because that should give us a bit of an indication as to who's doing what. Well, it's pretty straightforward. The top six are the top six in that order of fastest laps, as up the inside that is Suzuki battling away with Roberto Guerrero, and I think he's just got through. So Suzuki, no problem at all there to get past the to get past the Colombian, I should say. So Michael Schumacher ahead of Alessandro Zanardi. Gasho is under massive pressure from Bruno Giacomelli now, who is desperately trying, the Italian, to keep his title hopes alive in the Go Bobbit UK Cup. After the pole position has been scored, there are only 16 points available today and 17 points available in the next two races. So that means we've obviously only got 50 points still up for grabs in these final three races, which means that for Giacomelli, time is running out to close up on Martini, although Martini, of course, did retire last time out at Estoril. Although only JJ Leto and Ukyo Katayama were really able to take advantage of that. Leto's victory, his second in a row, has now put him up to 74 points compared to Martini, who is on 100. So the gap is 26 points with 50 still available to be scored. So it is still possible for Leto, but he's got to really have a great race. And at the moment, he's in 8th, ahead of Martini, who is 9th. So they're not going to score a massive amount of differences in terms of points. In fact, Leto's only going to gain 1 point if it stays like this. So the gap will come down from 26 points to 25 with, let me do the math here, 34 points available from the last two races at Suzuka and Adelaide. Here's Martin Brundle. The pit stops can't be too far away, but obviously they are only doing a one stop, a mandatory one pit stop in the race, and it all comes down to what the drivers decide is going to be the right strategy. I think a lot of them are going to try and go quite far into the race as Brundle runs a little bit wide there in the Minardi. And Michael Gillespie, team boss, is obviously going to be very sad to see Brundle go, but his performances in 1990, even if the results haven't been there, have been more than enough to attract him back into the top 10. How he was left out of a seat in the top 10 teams for 1990, I do not know, but he was given the chance by Minardi to rebuild his career, which he has done, and now he'll end up at Benetton in 1991, and I think he's looking forward to it. Here's Paolo Barilla. This is the first time we've seen him all season. The Italian has taken over Piercarlo Ghinzani's seat after the Italian decided the latter stages of the season have really been very frustrating as far as he's concerned. And after only one third-place finish in the Go Bobbit UK Cup at Silverstone, he has decided to call time on his career and walk away early. And so they decided to give team test driver Paolo Barilla the chance to get in the car. Yellow flags, that's Zanardi! That is Alessandro Zanardi! What's happened? He's gone off at turn 1. So Zanardi, battling away with Schumacher, has overshot at the first corner. And I'm afraid that has really compromised the Lego Acela day. A big problem there for Alessandro Zanardi. He's made a big mistake. Looks like he's just overshot, trying to close up on Michael Schumacher's Reynard. He's now got to wait until the field go by him to get back onto the circuit. It's got to be a clean move that he makes to move up through the field. And so Zanardi does rejoin in 19th place ahead of Ratzenberger and Herbert. But that's a chance of a podium well and truly dashed for Alessandro Zanardi. He's got to hope now that Marc Blundell, the race leader, remains in the top 3 so that the team can qualify. Otherwise, Schumacher and Reynard will get the upper hand, as will Martin Brundle and the Minardi. And the next team waiting in the wings is going to be the Coloni team for Bertrand Gachot and the Lola team for Bruno Giacomelli. They're still squabbling over 4th place. So we're about to head into lap 15 here at Jerez with 35 laps on the tally. So 21 laps to go. We're not quite at half distance yet. So we haven't quite seen drivers start to make their pit stops for the mandatory 1 stop. Although I have a feeling that Johnny Herbert in the Dallara is now fueled. No, he's not fueled to the end of the race, in fact, nor is Ratzenberger. So they've decided to try and keep them going as fast as humanly possible by keeping them on light fuel loads. Let's have a look at where things are for the drivers up front. So Brundle is not far from coming in. He's fueled lighter than Blundell, so interesting to see that Blundell has really dropped him. Schumacher's running a little bit lighter too. Gachot going a little further into the race, so is Giacomelli. Katayama and Leto running fairly medium strategies. Martini on a lower fuel load. Fittipaldi and Bernard all looking fairly solid with their fuel strategies too. Barilla could be coming in fairly soon. Suzuki having a real struggle behind the wheel today. Guerrero, Paul Warwick a little bit heavier in the Porsche, as is his teammate Paul Tracy. Tarquini in the AGS a little heavier too. But Winkelhock, Fangio, Zanardi, Ratzenberger and Herbert all due in very soon indeed, and the pit lane is going to become a real hive of activity. Probably not this lap, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was on the next lap that we see cars flying into the pit lane left, right and centre. As Marc Blundell leads here at Jerez, the 14th race of the Go Bobbit UK Cup, which is the race that precursors into the Grand Prix itself. Here's Johnny Herbert up on the inside of Roland Ratzenberger and gets through. No problem at all there. So a good move from the Englishman. And there isn't really a lot of response that Roland Ratzenberger can hope to have with that one. But Marc Blundell still running 5 seconds clear of Martin Brundle. And Michael Schumacher 8 seconds in hand. With Gachot and Giacomelli half a second apart. 2 seconds back is Katayama, just a whisker ahead of Leto, Martini. And then a few seconds back, Bernard and Fittipaldi are very close together on track. With Bernard, I think, having just got past the Brazilian. Paolo Barilla is actually 1 place off the points in his debut in 1990. So good to see him there in the Zach Speed, getting close to scoring his first Go Bobbit UK Cup point of 1990 on his debut. A shame that Volker Wiedler didn't last longer than the first half of the first lap, because the German in the Real was making his race debut this season as well. And Michael Schumacher in the Reynard, just trying to stay in contention at this moment in time. He's dropping back a little bit. Not quite sure why the Reynard isn't so suited to this circuit as it has been to some of the others, but Schumacher is trying to drag the most he possibly can out of it. That is for sure. Blundell goes past the pits. Is Brundle coming in this time in the Minardi? Yes, he is. So Brundle is the first to make the pit stop. Now, this is crucial in terms of race strategy because now the Lego Acela team will want to respond to this fairly quickly in order to gain track position. But Martin Brundle and the Minardi team decide to blink first. And Schumacher's in as well, actually. Schumacher in the Reynard comes in at the same time. Now, this is going to be about 8 or 9 seconds for the pit stop. So the Minardi team obviously want to make sure that this is a quick stop. 9.4, not bad at all. He should get out on track in about 10th position, although Fittipaldi and Barilla, I notice, have come into the pit lane as well. So Brundle will rejoin, I think, in 8th position. Yes, he does, just in front of Aguri Suzuki and Schumacher. Oh, Schumacher just gets out in front of Paul Warwick's Porsche. That could have been very messy indeed. Now, back to the action. Giacomelli is obviously trying to catch up to Bertrand Gachot, who's up to 2nd place thanks to all the pit stops. Fangio's in the pits now as well in the Eurobrun. But again, that is on schedule and on cue. Barilla came into the pits as well in the Zach Speed. So the battle continues as Paul Tracy is now in 13th behind teammate Paul Warwick, but they're due into the pits any moment now as well. In fact, I'm fairly sure Marc Blundell is going to go another lap in the Lego Acela. He clearly has good rhythm in that car, so why jeopardise things by making a pit stop when he's not ready to? Gachot and Giacomelli battling over 2nd place. Are either of them coming in? No, not at this lap, but it is going to be Ukyo Katayama in the Coloni, who is actually now holding up his main rivals in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup. Leto and Martini, and they're all going to come in together. Well, this is fascinating. We've got Katayama, Leto, and Martini all coming into the pit lane together, and these three are the top 3 drivers in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup point standings. Martini's had to wait because Katayama comes in, but he doesn't have to wait too long for Leto. So this is fascinating. Let's see how this pit stop race works out. Martini wants a fast stop, and it looks as though no problems at all over at Coloni. Katayama goes out. Martini's got to wait. But so too does Leto. And Martini's going to jump him. Martini jumps Leto at the pits. Now that is crucial because Martini will extend his lead in the points tally rather than see it decrease. So that is great news for Martini. Terrible news at Monteverdi. They really couldn't have afforded that kind of pit stop. So Leto now drops behind Pierluigi Martini. Herbert in the sole remaining Dallara pits in. And obviously last time out the team were able to have a great race and finish in the top 6, but today it's not quite going to go that way. So the Coloni of Gachot in front of the Lola of Bruno Giacomelli having a great run. And here's Blundell. Blundell is in the pits. Now I'm fairly sure he should come in and get out again with the lead of the race still intact. But the Lego Acela mechanics go to work. And this gap is crucial for Blundell because it means he should get out in good neck. But he's had a long pit stop, a bit of a sluggish one from the Lego Acela team, 10.9. So he's going to lose another second. Gachot, Giacomelli and Bernard all come in. But where is Martin Brundle? That's going to be the key factor in this one as Giacomelli and Gachot come through. Is that going to be the lead for Brundle as he passes the pits? He comes through, and no, Brundle is there in second. He hasn't lost the lead, Marc Blundell, so he keeps hold of it, and Michael Schumacher is still there in third. So, the Lego Acela team get away with that one, and their pit stop works okay, despite being a second slower than some of the others out there. Gachot comes out in front of Paul Tracy, who is going to be the last man in, I think. Bruno Giacomelli and Ukyo Katayama rejoin, but Giacomelli is in front of Katayama. So the Lola team have done a better job than Coloni in the pits. But Gachot, I'm afraid, has maintained his position. So for the Lola team, that's not great news. But for Coloni, it's fantastic. So Katayama is now going to be on the offensive to try and get his position back again. Now, Martini in front of JJ Leto is very important in terms of the driver's standings because it gives them a really good nudge forward. What about Christian Fittipaldi? Because I think Fittipaldi... Oh, that's a big off for the AGS. That's a big problem. And that is Roberto Guerrero, I'm afraid. The Colombian has pushed it too hard through that right-hander. We've seen a few drivers locking up and making the mistake there. But Roberto Guerrero in the AGS, who was doing such a good job up to that point as well. This has been one of his strongest performances of the season. But I'm afraid he's just cost himself dear there. He's thrown away a great chance of a point. And the AGS team, which is going to become Holden Racing next year, an all-Australian outfit, is obviously now looking a little bit sorry for themselves. As into the pits comes Paul Tracy. This is expected for the Porsche, as he looks like he's going to be the last driver into the pit lane. And so he will drop out of the top 10, but obviously his teammate Warwick is going to go up to 13th. So Porsche do still have an outside chance of points today, but it's not looking great for them. Now Martin Brundle. Oh, that's Mark Blundell! Mark Blundell's Osella. He's on fire! The car was going so well. This is what happens with Lego Osella. The car is doing such a good job up at the front, and now the car is on fire. An oil leak in the Lego Osella. The car is quick, but it just isn't reliable, and that's such a shame for Mark Blundell. And I'm sorry to say, that has ruined the Osella team's chances of getting into the Spanish Grand Prix, as through into the lead goes Martin Brundle. It's game over for the Osella team. What a shame, with Zanardi having spun off earlier, and now Mark Blundell out of the race as well. From the lead, it's Heartbreak Hotel for the Lego Osella team. And Martin Brundle is left out on his own in front of Michael Schumacher. So it's Minardi, Reynard and now Coloni that have the best chance of getting into the Grand Prix, as they are the first three teams on the road. Gut-wrenching for Mark Blundell. He did not deserve that, as out of the pit lane comes Guerrero, and he is now a lap down from the leaders, Brundle and Schumacher. So, just bitterly disappointing for Mark Blundell. He had done everything right, and I think he's looking forward to being in a bit more of a reliable car for the 1991 season, the Benetton. Although, having said that, they have got Porsche engines next year, so that is debatable as to whether the Porsche project is going to bear fruit like it has done in the Go Bobbit UK Cup, or whether it will not be able to be as strong as the team is hoping for it to be. There's going to be a lot more support for Coloni next year as Martini locks up. He's in 8th place now, ahead of JJ Leto still, but now trying to close up on the Brazilian Christian Fittipaldi, who is doing a grand job here, actually. The life is going much better here than it has done previously. This is certainly their best outing since Brazil. Martin Brundle leads Schumacher by 3.8 seconds, so the German is catching the Englishman. And Brundle will be in a Benetton next year. Schumacher will be in a Ferrari next year, so the two of them will continue their squabbles, but in the top tier, which is great news for them. Bertrand Gachot in the Coloni in 3rd position, Bruno Giacomelli 4th, Katayama in 5th, Bernard is 6th from Fittipaldi, Martini, Leto and Suzuki. Paolo Barilla is 11th place in the Zach Speed, 12th is Paul Warwick, who is going reasonably well. So the battle continues down the main straight, as there is Paolo Barilla, the Italian, trying his best to close up on a Guri Suzuki in the Lola, who, let's be fair, has not had a great day at the office. Had a solid start to the season, but ever since the German Grand Prix, Suzuki has just had a nightmare in terms of his results over the course of the season. He's barely finished a race since then. He brought it home in Italy, technically speaking, but he was 20th. So, a horrible day at the races for Aguri Suzuki since the German Grand Prix. He was 2nd at Silverstone, of course, behind Joachim Winkelhock. But ever since then, it's just been a nightmare for Suzuki. I think he's very much looking forward to joining Honda next year, as Martini gets the move on the inside of Fittipaldi. That's very important as far as the Go Bobbit UK Cup is concerned, because he's now gone a place ahead of JJ Leto. That's one more point extended to his lead. And obviously Martini looking likely to get into the Grand Prix as well, with his teammate Martin Brundle on the road ahead, having an absolutely solid day at the races here at Jerez. Azukyo Katayama locks up in the Coloni into the new chicane, but he seems to have got away with that one no problem at all, as the field continues on the far side of the course. Now this is Bernard in 6th. Martini is now 7th ahead of Fittipaldi and Leto. Bernard has a potential role to play here in 6th position, because if he can hold up Martini and Leto is able to get past Fittipaldi quite quickly, that could benefit the Finn to move closer in the rankings, because it has to be said, although Bernard has had a strong second half of the season as well, Leto has scored more points. Leto has 74 and Bernard has 61. So with 50 points available and a 39-point deficit, Bernard is not in the strongest position to challenge Martini's lead in the title fight for the Go Bobbit UK Cup. So he's really got to play the team game here. Oh, and that's one of the Eurobruns going pop. That's not gone well at all. That's Juan Fangio II, I'm afraid. The Eurobruns had a big moment there. So a big problem for Fangio II. And I think Leto has just got past Christian Fittipaldi in the life, who drops now to 9th position. So Leto is up to 8th as Fangio, I'm afraid, retires from the race. The Argentine, nephew of the 5 times world champion Juan Manuel Fangio, the legend, Il Maestro they used to call him. Juan Fangio II not having such a sweet time in the Go Bobbit UK Cup, and that's Gasho being overtaken. Gasho's in trouble. Gasho's got an oil leak as well now. So the same problem that befell Marc Blundell has now befallen Cologne's Bertrand Gasho, and this is bad news because Lola's Bruno Giacomelli has gone by into 3rd position. They are looking good to go through to the Grand Prix, and Cologne are now going to have to get Katayama ahead of Giacomelli with Gasho out of the race. And I'm afraid to say that is it for Gasho's title attack. He was already well out of it, the Belgian. He only joined the team mid-season. As a race driver, I should say. He was their test driver at the start of the year and did the first race, but then was dropped at the second round of the championship in favour of Kathy Muller, I think it was, who came into the team. And rather sadly, she couldn't finish the season. She did the 4th race of the season, 5th and 6th races actually. She did 3 of the rounds. Moreno, I think it was, that was in the Eurobrun at one point. But a very dramatic situation there in the Go Bobbit UK Cup. As we look at Paul Tracy in the Porsche, who has closed up on Alessandro Zanardi, who is in 12th place in the sole remaining Lego Acela. So nearly could have been a Grand Prix start for Lego Acela today, with Marc Blundell leading and doing a grand job out of the pits. They really had got it all right, but an oil leak creeping in. The same problem that has, of course, now befallen Bertrand Gasho. But it's all benefited this man, Martin Brundle, in the Minardi, as the team searches for more points in the Constructors' Championship. A chance to get into 11th place could happen today. If they manage to do a decent job in the Grand Prix, they could certainly get a step closer to Lola. Lola have had 5 points finishes over the course of the season in the Grand Prix. They were 7th and 8th in Phoenix, and then they had a 7th place at Imola and an 8th at Monaco and Canada. Those are the only point scores Lola have had all season in Formula 1, but they've been enough to put them on 17 points, and they're certainly gaining ground and gaining momentum on the likes of Arrows and Ligier as they continue to struggle. But Minardi have 7 points. They've had 3 points finishes, a 7th, a 10th and a 9th. And the 9th, of course, was last time out at Estoril, so Minardi still have a chance in this Constructors' Championship of breaking into the top 10, because we know already that Leighton House, although they are 7th in the standings, they're going to rebrand as the Honda Works team next year. But by doing so, they have to go and do pre-qualifying, because obviously it's technically a new entry. The team are happy with it. The Honda obviously want to develop Japanese talent and Japanese drivers, as well as work on their engines, and to have their own team to develop youthful Japanese talent is definitely part of their program. So they will continue to supply Honda engines next year to the likes of McLaren, to Cologne, which will be a new partner for them, and to the Tyrrell team. But obviously they're also focusing on Japanese talent. It's something that Honda is very passionate about. They want to hone the skills of a Japanese driver to make them a Grand Prix winner. It hasn't happened yet. It has happened in the Go Bobbit UK Cup, because Ukyo Katayama obviously took a win earlier in the season, back at the Brazilian Grand Prix, and Aguri Suzuki did so as well at the Canadian Grand Prix. So they have won in pre-qualifying, they just haven't won in a Grand Prix yet, and both of those Japanese drivers are going to be part of the Honda factory effort in 1991. So it could be very interesting to see how that project goes. But Brundle is 3.9 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. He's pushing the Minardi very hard. He's trying to stay in front of the Reynard in second position. But he doesn't need to push harder than he has to. He just needs to keep the car solid and smooth at the front of the field, as Michael Schumacher in the Cadbury's Reynard, which he will be driving for the last time at Adelaide in Australia, is going to have a very successful end to the year by the look of it, with another qualification for a Grand Prix in the offing as the car runs in second place. Giacomelli is currently third in the Lola, but with Ukyo Katayama and Eric Bernard waiting in the wings, we could have a very interesting final few laps as Giacomelli and the Lola fights to get the Lola team into a Grand Prix for the first time since the British Grand Prix. Lola has not qualified for a Grand Prix since Britain, so it would be very important for them to get some points on the board again and get them back into a Grand Prix. There is Christian Fittipaldi, a great job from the Brazilian. A lot of people said he was too young to cope with this in 1991, but he has proven them all wrong. He actually grabbed the team a finish at the Brazilian Grand Prix when Fittipaldi, I think it was, came home. Oh no, sorry, it was his teammate who came home in 14th place, but Fittipaldi proved that day, you know, he does have what it takes to be a Grand Prix driver, and he's had a second place finish, a 9th place finish twice, and now it looks as though he's going to get his second best finish of the year, which is an 8th place, if he can just keep this together. So it could be a very strong finish indeed for the Brazilian. Suzuki and Barella are 9th and 10th position, so it looks as though Paolo Barilla, on his debut, is going to get a point in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, and that's Katayama locking up in the Coloni. He can't afford to do that. He needs to catch Giacomelli, not let him get further away. And meanwhile, Martini is actually being caught by JJ Leto in the second Monteverdi. So it doesn't look as though the Monteverdi team are going to get into the Grand Prix the way things currently stack up. Here's Johnny Herbert trying to close up on Gabriele Tarquini. He's only been able to get past Ratzenberger and Winkelhock, as well as Roberto Guerrero since the start of the race, Johnny Herbert. It's been a difficult day at the office for the Dallara team, and it's certainly not where they wanted to be. But obviously the team has got to pull focus and keep themselves together. It's going to be an interesting time as they continue to battle their way forward. So Martin Brundle in the Minardi, crossed fingers at the team's garage, looking good for a victory. If it doesn't work out for Martin Brundle, then Martini needs to overtake Katayama and Bernard in the hope of getting into the Grand Prix. So all the hopes of Minardi currently rest on Martin Brundle to get through to a Formula 1 Grand Prix. But this is particularly good news for Martini, who is on the course to get 5 points in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, compared to Leto, who is due to get 4. Looks like Paul Warwick has been overtaken by Alessandro Zanardi. So Zanardi has managed to get the Lego Acela up into 11th place. He has got a little bit of time to catch up to Suzuki and Barella in front of him, but that will hardly make up for the fact that the Acela team were doing such a good job with Mark Blundell in the lead of this Go Bobbit at UK Cup race. And it should have been him. It should have been him to take the win as far as he was concerned. He had already done all the hard work. But 15 points are going to go the way of Martin Brundle. That will put him up ahead of Damon Hill, Johnny Herbert and Oguri Suzuki in the title fight. So that brings Martin Brundle right up into the top 6, I do believe, if he can hang on to this victory. And the British driver will not have a mathematical chance of winning the Go Bobbit at UK Cup like his teammate Martini does, but he'll certainly give himself plenty of plaudits heading into the 1991 season when he switches to the Apple Benetton Porsche team. So here's Michael Schumacher, second position in the Reynard. Giacomelli third from Katayama, Bernard, Martini, Leto, Fittipaldi, Suzuki and Barilla, with Zanardi in 11th place ahead of Paul Warwick and Paul Tracy in the 2 Porsches. Tarquini is 14th, Herbert is in 15th place, and then behind them we've got Ratzenberger, Winkelhock and Guerrero. So in terms of the lap times, Brundle is still the fastest man on track. That's how he's able to sustain this pace. Schumacher is being caught a little bit by Bruno Giacomelli in the Lola, which is parting company with LaRousse at the end of this season. LaRousse is actually going to return to Formula 3000 in 1991, as they plan a rebooted team for the 1992 season, apparently. They've decided, okay, well, Lola's going its own way, the car builder, and becoming an independent factory team again. So we're going to rebuild, regroup, and we're going to try and come back when the time is right. So it'll be interesting to see. Oh, that's Martini! That's Martini! Martini is out! Now that is a disaster for the Italian. So Pierluigi Martini is not going to score points after all then in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup. He retires for the second race in a row, and that means he hasn't scored since the Belgian Grand Prix. Well, that is terrible news for Martini. All it's going to take now is a bit of fortune to favour his rivals, Leto and Katayama, and they're going to make a serious dent in his points tally. In fact, Katayama's now looking at 4th, which is good enough for 8 points. Leto is looking at 6th, which is good enough for 5 points. So So that's going to bring them to within 21 points and I think 20 points respectfully. So Katayama will actually overtake Leto in the fight for second in the drivers' title fight in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup. But more ominously, Katayama and Leto will be within 20 and 21 points respectfully of Martini's total, and a win is worth 15. So the Italian is not going to win the Go Bobbit at UK Cup this weekend, but he could still fight in the Grand Prix, but they're going to have to fix whatever issue it was with Martini's car ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. So Leto up to 6th, and he can be very happy with that. Fittipaldi is now 7th. Suzuki is 8th. Barilla is 9th and looking good for 2 points. And Alessandro Zanardi has fought his way up into 10th place ahead of the 2 Porsches of Warwick and Tracy. Martin Brundle on lap 31 of 35. 5 laps to go. And Katayama in the Coloni is running in 4th place, but he's not catching Giacomelli, so it looks as though the Lola team are going to qualify for a Grand Prix for the first time since the British Grand Prix in the summer. And that's definitely going to be a great way for team boss Carter McCollman to bow out of the LaRousse Lola operation, as he hands the team over to Tom Cairns, who will take the reins of Lola in 1991, with deals already signed up with the finance brokers MasterCard. So that could be very interesting heading into the 1991 season. Brundle is now 4.8 seconds ahead of Schumacher. Schumacher really struggling for pace. And there's Zanardi making the move on Barilla for 9th position. So Barilla is down to 10th and Zanardi is through into 9th place. So he's trying to get as many points on the board as he possibly can. And behind... Oh, that's Ratzenberger. Oh, he's just overshot. He's pushed too hard into the right-hander. And I'm afraid Ratzenberger has damaged the car there, so he's going to get back onto the circuit, but he's now going to have to repair the front wing. So that is going to drop the Reynard of Roland Ratzenberger to dead last. He's just fortunate that his teammate Michael Schumacher is still running in 2nd place, 5 seconds off the lead, because otherwise he would not be racing in the Spanish Grand Prix later. So here's Bruno Giacomelli. Giacomelli running in 3rd, and the Lola LaRousse is looking good to qualify for the first time since Silverstone, as Paul Warwick locks up into the final hairpin. He is searching for a point for the Porsche team. And they've had a bit of a barren luck of fortunes of late after a good, strong mid-season flourish when they won in Germany. They were 3rd in Hungary and they were 7th at Spa. It's been a rather difficult... they were 7th in Birmingham, I should say. It's been a very difficult time for the team since then. Tracy has had to... Oh, that's Suzuki! Suzuki has gone off! So Suzuki has gone off in the Lola LaRousse, and that is very embarrassing indeed for the Japanese driver. That does actually promote Warwick into the points. So Paul Warwick is into the points then, in 10th position in the Porsche. Suzuki has gone off the road in the Lola LaRousse. I wonder if Honda have bet on the right horse here by hiring his services for next year, because Suzuki has had a real mid-season slump. And towards the end of the season, he is now stuck in the gravel trap, desperately trying to get out again. The car, in essence, seems okay. So if he can get out of the gravel trap, he should still have an opportunity to finish the race. But it's fairly embarrassing for the Japanese driver, who now drops to the back of the field in 17th place. And Suzuki is not going to get out of that gravel trap easily, and therefore he's not going to get into the points of this race. So yet more misfortune for Aguri Suzuki. He has yet to score a point since the Birmingham Super Prix, when he set the fastest lap around the streets of Birmingham. But very embarrassing for the Japanese driver. He hasn't actually scored a point in a race finish since the British Grand Prix. So Joe Winkelhock runs in 14th position in the Zach Speed. He's doing a fair job in position. Suzuki's still trying to get the car going, but the whole field has now lapped him. So that shows you the extent of Suzuki's problem. He wants to finish the race, especially if his teammate Giacomelli is going to finish on the podium. Suzuki tries to get out of the gravel trap and then goes straight back into it again. Not the most dynamic of recovery drives from the young Japanese driver. But Martin Brundle, out in front in the Minardi, is going into lap 34 now. 2 laps to go for the Minardi driver, so it's all fine and dandy from the British driver's point of view. And if we look at the lap times, Schumacher is actually a little bit quicker than Martin Brundle at the moment. But in the grand scheme of things, the Minardi has got things well and truly under wraps. 5 seconds is the gap, and he doesn't even need to push here. He just needs to keep the car on the island, keep it on the straight and narrow, and Minardi, despite Martini's retirement, will still be going through to the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez. Giacomelli is there in third position, but Leto is currently the third fastest man on track behind the two leaders as he tries to gain some ground on his teammate Eric Bernard. I think the absence of Pierluigi Martini has definitely given him a bit of a second wind as Giacomelli nearly trips over Roberto Guerrero. So that could have been nasty. Alessandro Zanardi running in 8th place now in the Lego Osella. And that's going to move him up a few more points in the rankings. He's had a miserable season all in all. He's going to be the team test driver, Alessandro Zanardi, next year at Monteverde. But he's had all sorts of bad luck. But then he has thrown away opportunities as well. Let's not forget that he has made his own mistakes in 1990. Formula 1 doesn't really seem to be Zanardi's playground at the moment. So Michael Schumacher in 2nd place in the Reynard, doing an absolutely phenomenal job. And the German is going to try a little bit harder to push his way forward. Across the line and into the last lap. Martin Brundle's already gone through, 4.9 seconds up the road. So Martin Brundle is looking very confident indeed out in the lead of the race. There he is in the Minardi. And this is the race win that he's been searching for all the way through the year. He hasn't had one over the course of this season. He came close last time out in Estoril. He came 2nd behind JJ Leto. And that's Zanardi coming in. He's got a puncture. Zanardi's got a puncture. Now, I'm not sure what the marshals are still doing moving Martini's car. But Zanardi into the pits with a puncture. That is not good news for the Lego Osella just when he was looking at points. And now it looks as though Tracy's going to get into the points now as well, which he does. So it's just gone from bad to worse for the Lego Osella team. Unfortunate is not even the word. It's just had no luck at all today. Leading with Blundell and an oil leak, which handed the lead to this man, Martin Brundle. Zanardi going off before that from 3rd position. They could have got into the Grand Prix with both cars very easily. But Martin Brundle is going to come through now in the Minardi with a fantastic performance today. He is going to get his first win in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup. And a brilliant job from the Minardi driver. He echoes his teammate Martini, who's won twice this season. It's the 3rd win of the year for Minardi, and they get into the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez. Michael Schumacher is 2nd in the Reynard. They're in the Grand Prix again. And Bruno Giacomelli in the Lola is going to come through in 3rd position. The LaRousse Lola finishes 3rd. And that is Giacomelli into the Grand Prix as well, along with his teammate Aguri Suzuki, despite finishing a lap adrift. Katayama is 4th, and he makes big gains on Martini's points tally. Leto does as well. Katayama scores 8 points. That puts him on 80 compared to Martini on 100. Leto is going to score 5. That puts him on 79. As Johnny Herbert is pushing Gabriele Tarquini in the very last laps of the race. Gabriele Tarquini has yet to score a point. Oh no, sorry, he has scored a point. I do apologise. He was 8th place earlier in the season. So Herbert doesn't quite get to overhaul Gabriele Tarquini in the AGS. But the Porsches both come home in the points. 2 for Warwick, 1 for Tracy. So the Porsches get some decent finishes out of the Go Bobbit at UK Cup race. And their drivers score points in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup race after all. That should make up for the misery of Estoril a little bit. But for Martin Brundle, Michael Schumacher and Bruno Giacomelli, they take Minardi, Reynard and LaRousse Lola into the Grand Prix here at Jerez in Spain. It's a big moment for those 3 teams. They will be in the Spanish Grand Prix. Brundle, Schumacher and Giacomelli. Katayama is 4th in the Coloni from Eric Bernard and JJ Leto in the Monteverdes. Christian Fittipaldi does a great job in the Life in 7th. It's a good debut for Paolo Barilla in the Zakspeed Yamaha. And the Porsches are 9th and 10th of Paul Warwick and Paul Tracy. Then it is Gabriele Tarquini ahead of Johnny Herbert, Alessandro Zanardi in front of Joe Winkelhock, Roland Ratzenberger, Roberto Guerrero and Aguri Suzuki were all a lap down. And then come the retirements. Martini with an engine failure, Gasho with an oil leak, Fangio II had an engine blow in the Europa and Judd, Mark Blundell leading with an oil leak, so unfortunate, Eddie Irvine with a suspension failure, and that first lap crash that took out Donnelly, McNish, Hill and Wiedler, putting all 4 drivers out of the race and on the sidelines. The fastest lap of the race came from Mark Blundell. He scores the point for that, but it doesn't really give him what he wanted from this race. Ratzenberger drove angry as well to get a second fastest lap time of the Grand Prix. But unfortunately, it is not going to be either man who gets the spoils today. Ratzenberger will start the race though, because his teammate Michael Schumacher came home second. But for the Spanish Grand Prix of 1990, it will be the Minardi, Reynard and Lola LaRousse teams that will go through to the Spanish Grand Prix, which is coming up next, right here.